political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. Today, look around America. We see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. And are not afraid to say it. And are not.
In the Middle East, in the exact same way that America is the oldest democracy in the world. I can remember walking down streets with a Palestinian guide, and we would get to certain streets and he would say, I can't walk down this street with you. You can walk, I cannot, because I'm Palestinian. And I thought, I know what that is. As we drove through the occupied territories and I would look out and I would see roads that Palestinians could use and roads that only Israeli Jews could use. I said, I know what this is. As I saw different colored license plates for different classes of people, I said, I know what this is. As I saw communities that I can only describe as segregated. And what I felt was a tremendous weight. I felt the obvious thing that I think all of us feel, that our tax dollars are effectively subsidizing apartheid, or subsidizing a segregationist order, a Jim Crow regime. But I also felt that as an African American who was reared on the fight against Jim Crow, against white supremacy, against apartheid, I felt tremendous shame. How could I not know?
Peace and blessings, everybody. This is Damon K. Jones here, and this is a special edition of the People Before Politics show. We do it on Friday. It's Freedom Friday, where we usually do shows like this where we talk about freedom, justice, and equality, and people that are out in the streets challenging the system for freedom, justice, and equality. And, you know, for the last 3 months now, we've been having real honest discussions around Israel and Palestine. And I know there are some people who were told not to advertise with us anymore. A lot of Democratic candidates have refused to send advertisements to us, but that's okay, you know, because this is what we do. You know, we give the news with a Black point of view, and when we're discussing the apartheid and oppression of Black and brown people in Palestine, you know, we have to speak truth to power. We have to talk about it. And all this comes around this political election year with George Lattimore being backed by AIPAC, which their goal is to take out all people who really basically stand with the Palestinian people and stand for a two-state solution and stand for a ceasefire, or basically just stopping the war. You know, as I said on other shows, you know, if there's a baseball game or a football game or any game, and you're watching the game and it's 30,000 to 1,200, the game's over. The game is over. usually a ref will call the game and say it's over. But when we see these atrocities and when we see these numbers and nobody's saying anything, it really tests our humanity. So, we're going to keep going and we're going to keep trying to give voices to the people. That's especially here in Westchester because we have this election going on, and it's to me, I'm very disappointed in a lot of our elected officials. But that said, we have some great guests coming on. Susan Adley and Hadil Sarah. I'm going to bring them on right now. Welcome, 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 and thank you. First, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing. I want to thank you for the work that you're doing in Westchester County and internationally, but especially Westchester County, because I think sometimes people in Westchester County are like in a bubble, and they really don't know what's going on within their county. And I want to thank both of y'all for the work that you're doing. And Susan, you go first, and Adil.
Introduce myself. Yeah.
Yes.
So hi, it's great to be on this show. I'm from the city of Yonkers. I was like born and raised in Southwest Yonkers, but I've lived some other cities and like moved back in the past 10 years. And I'm a labor organizer and I'm a legal activist and president of a National Progressive Lawyers Association called the National Lawyers Guild, which is sort of like well known for their support of like using the law to support social movements and support resistance movements and so on. And I've also I'm Arab American. My family is from the Arab community in Yonkers, immigrated to Yonkers in the 70s from Jordan. And I've been kind of part of the Palestine solidarity movement in the US for like since I was a youth, and belong to several community-based organizations that really are based in New York City.
Okay, great. Adil?
Hi, thank you so much for having us and for shedding the light on what's going on related especially to the ceasefire process here in Yonkers. My name is Hadil, and I'm a teacher and researcher as what I do. And I'm originally Palestinian. My parents, who were immigrated in 1948, expelled from Palestine, and they moved to Jordan. So I did grow up in Jordan, but then I finished my high school and my college years here in Yonkers. And after I've been organizer participant in the protest, but nothing really deep into the organizing field. But then, November 2023, just everybody felt the need here in Westchester, as you just mentioned, to really bring that movement up and mobilize and like get the movement that's happening in the city, which is amazing, back here into Westchester, because we have the population who supports Palestine, but we don't have the energy and the organizing platform to really do it. So we did initiate Westchester for Palestine, which is technically a coalition that include independent activists who want to work for Palestine, but also organization that not necessarily for Palestine specifically, but want to do action and an initiative for Palestine. And yeah, we've been working with Jewish Voice for Peace, DSA, National Guild connection, and yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on. I'm trying to word the question. Like when you living in Westchester and you hear or you see the insensitivity, because I have friends that are from Palestine. I have Muslim friends. I have when you hear the lack of care, and you see it from elected officials. You know, sometimes the Muslim community is really not heard, as you said. You know, and is it how does the Muslim community feel because there's not outlets, you know, to express their feelings. But you know, talking to a lot of my Muslim brothers and my Arabs, Palestinian brothers and sisters, we go back and forth in groups, you know, and they're pissed off. But on the whole, like because people don't see um how y'all guys feel, how they feel. Like it's not, you know, please, people that's watching, like give, you know, like when you see what's happening, but you see the lack of care from people that you vote for, you know, how does that make you feel?
I mean, to be honest with you, with the reaction that we've been seeing after, like, in everything that's happening since November, it kind of reveals people on its true color for us, whether friends, institutes, council members. But for politician, I'm personally not surprised, and I know a lot of my friends are not surprised. It's something like we kind of knew. We kind of try to adapt. We try to just say, you know what, we're fighting for our rights as Muslims here in Yonkers, in Westchester, and it gotten better throughout the years. Maybe we forgot for a little bit. We're like, oh yeah, you know what, they're really with us. But then this, what happened? It's like, whoa, no, it really didn't really change, like there's that depth of like, we're with you on certain things, we support you, we want to empower you, but you touch base on Palestine or anything against Israel, you are canceled. And as hard as that is for us to watch and go through, as much as it's good, because we cannot really waste time anymore thinking that this is a group is our ally or not.
Right.
So it's kind of helped us to discern, but still it made us rage, right? Like, we're not really surprised, but that does not take the feeling away. Like, it's just ridiculous, especially from politician, and not just like government politician, like here local Yonkers Council, for example. Our work with them just was, I never thought that the corruption is that like in the small town as well, as much as it is in the higher government.
Yeah. Susan?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Hadil, and like it's also like it's our local government, it's also our like national government, and there's been a lot of periods of time when we felt like the Arab and Muslim voice was never heard, right? I mean, they were bombing Gaza in 2014. They were bombing Gaza in like the month before Obama became president. They invaded Iraq in 2003, and like there was just a lot of noise, kind of like supporting. Well, at least over the years, there's been a growing movement in opposition to all of those policies, which is important to point out. But it's a generally kind of on a national level feeling that like our voice is like Middle East policy is Middle East policy, U.S. interests, pro-Israeli. They don't care about the voices of Arab Americans in the United States, of Muslim Americans in the United States, and then locally. I mean, I grew up in Yonkers, so I can't speak to all the cities, right? But I've, at some point I left before I came back because I always just felt that like Yonkers was just a really racist, corrupt city where there wasn't really a lot of opportunity to think about a different way of doing things, right? So like I became an organizer in Chicago, became an organizer in New York City. I didn't know which direction to go in Yonkers because that kind of expectation, like I don't think that like most of our politicians care about Arabs, Muslims, or any Black and brown people, right? They do exactly what Hadil said, like to everyone, right? We want you to be grateful that you don't live in the city, be grateful you get to live in a suburb, be grateful for this, be grateful for that, and that like we're with you, but there's never any real substantive change. Like, I mean, like seeing the absolutely disgusting way that they're trying to gentrify downtown Yonkers when they spent years, decades never investing in the local community, and kind of like working instead to displace them in the same ways that Palestinians are being displaced, right? And like what Spano's there now with for the third time. You know, I knew the Spano family when I was in grade school, right? And I always knew them to be racist. Sorry to say that. But like, I mean, I just kind of interacted with them, and I would hear members of the Spano family say things, you know, like the N word, you know, towards children in the street and things like that. And like, I just think, you know, like it's almost kind of like it's created kind of this governance system that like we don't really have access, we don't totally understand, we don't really have access to, we don't really know what's motivating kind of the decisions that are kind of being made. And but like certainly don't think that like they're listening to Arabs and Muslims or to any of like our impacted communities. Yeah.
Uh, Welcome to the show. Sorry I was late. I was taking care of a few things. I'm AJ. Um, you know, we hear a lot of terms like anti-Semitic thrown around these days. Anything that you say about a Jewish person, whether it's true or not, they say is anti-Semitic. What you don't hear are terms, and you're starting to hear a little bit more, um, Islamophobia, anti-blackness. Like, these things have been going on for forever and ever and ever, but it's kind of like, it's ignored. It's almost acceptable. Um, with Islam, the link to terrorism and everything, just the expectation, just the accusation is almost acceptable. And we live amongst that, and we're told to like kind of get over it. You know what I'm saying? And we have to integrate some kind of way to make, to make it where, and I'm not trying to pick on Jewish people or anything, but where anything that goes on with them, we all supposed to, chip in and like, oh, we got to stamp this out. But, it's not that way when it comes to us. You know what I'm saying? It's never, we're supposed to feel empathy for what they went through, and what they went through was atrocious. You know what I'm saying? In history. But so have we.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And when do we get that kind of consideration? I feel that often, and I just wanted to give you all a chance to speak on that if, if that, if y'all feel the same way.
I mean, honestly, this is the double standard of view that we've seen, right? It's just there's certain group of people who just assume that we should all support when it comes, and I wouldn't say Jews, but I would say white,
Right, okay.
white or European descents. Like anything happens in the world, right? There's some atrocity happening to in a white country or to a white group of people. We all should post, everybody, all the politician goes out to support, and then it's not the same for other people. So it is, yeah, it's the racist mentality that we really live in, and it's kind of expected, and in a way we really used to it in a way, right? Like we know it's wrong, but when we see it, we're like, yeah, this is how it is. I don't know if Susan have something to add on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's a racist double standard, right? And just in the way that like there's so much sympathy for Ukrainians, right? And even calls to support their resistance. And, and we have to fight hard to get that same sympathy for like Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims, or people from the Congo, or people, from, and then, yeah, I mean, as you said, there's like systematic Islamophobia, anti-Blackness, also kind of like xenophobia against migrants. That's just like accepted levels of racism, but that some privileged classes, as Hadil said, are white, European, that are protected, much more easily. But I also think that like that is like that's weaponized, that's used as a weapon against us, right? And there are a lot of really active, strong, anti-Zionist Jews, and there's always been like movements of like white Jews who've called this out and who've pointed this out and who are like, standing, you know, um, in support of like Arab, Muslim, Black communities, and standing against, what Israel is doing, and that's really kind of helped contribute, I think, to the growth of the movement here, in the U.S. in particular.
I wanted to ask one other question real quick that came to mind. So right now the world is all talking about what happened on October 7th. Before October 7th, a lot of people were not really, the world was not focused on what was going on in this region. Some of the things that are going on in Gaza right now have preceded October 7th. I want you to share a little bit of that. This is not new, and I'm not saying that October 7th they deserved it or not. I'm not trying to say anything like that, but I'm saying that what's going on now has been going on for a while, but does not get attention. And I want y'all to share that a little bit.
Suzanne can go.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the European colonization of Palestine actually began in the 19th century, right? And it in the late 19th century, and it it was kind of part of a very European kind of ideology of like the right to colonize lands of the global South, right? And actually the first kind of development of like the political ideology of Zionism, they actually considered Uganda as a place to sort of like build their sort of white Jewish state, right? But that, sort of pointing to historical Palestine, where actually like Palestinian Jews have lived just like Palestinian Christians and Palestinian Muslims for like centuries, right? They could invoke the Bible kind of or the Torah as sort of that connection, But so the colonization began with like groups of settlers coming in that increasingly became violent against the indigenous sort of like Palestinian populations, right? And then in the 1930s, you start to see the first, you really sort of see an escalation of that violence of like stealing lands, of like, colonial violence against the Palestinians. And you see Palestinian farmers and workers starting to organize and rise up against it. And then in 1948, and the British Empire had a lot with facilitating this, like, as well as the Western dominated UN, they created the state of Israel. In the process of doing it, destroyed more than 500 Palestinian villages, and engaged in several massacres and violent displacement of people from their homes. And Hadil was just talking about her family's own experience of that in 1948. My grandparents actually also in 1948 left, but they had already lived in Jordan before that, so they had a home to go back to. And then, what that led to was then, increasing movements by, the Israeli state to capture more land, right? And so they began to also occupy Gaza and the West Bank in 1967. And they have total control over the lives of Palestinians, right? And, they've been kind of engaging in really this violent occupation, that it doesn't just look like the starving in the siege of Gaza for over 10 years, or but also like daily humiliation, killing, imprisonment of Palestinian people. So there's so much to it, and there's just so many layers, and yes, and it's ignored. And I think what a lot of people also don't know is that, putting my legal hat on for a second, the fact is that Israel has been determined to be in a legal occupying power by international law, by international legal cases, which means that as the illegal occupying power, they have zero right legally to self-defense because they are the belligerent power. Whereas the law clearly establishes over and over again the right for colonized people to resist a belligerent, to resist a racist regime, to resist a colonial regime, right? And these are things that were written when African states were fighting for their independence, when
Mhm.
and it's very clear. Also, the international law is very clear that Palestinians have this right, and they have this right to do this in any way that they need to, including taking up arms. And I can share that. I can share those international legal
Please do.
documents with anybody who is interested in seeing them.
Absolutely.
I,
I love data and paperwork. Um, you
I
know,
asked that question because for that reason, and also our guest, one of our viewers just said something throughout history. If you look through history, and we faced as Black people, the treatment of a certain treatment for over so many years, and over so many years, and then the resistance to the verbal, for lack of a better term, get your knee off our neck. You know what I'm saying? We're pushing back, like we're being held out. We decide to stand up. You know, it's always looked at as, it's always called things like terrorism. It's always called things like other things. I wanted to show that there's two sides of this, not just the side that we see in the media. Um, they say, they teach you in school, for every action there's a reaction. If you continue to bully someone for so long, eventually the guy, you're gonna stand up and punch the bully in the face. You know what I mean? And because you have so much in you, you might over excessively beat up this bully because you have all of this in you. Not saying that might not be right or not, but you're fighting for, you just, I don't know if I'm making a point, but that's what I wanted to show. There's often two sides of a story, and I look at, African American history, Black history here in America, certain uprisings, certain pushbacks, the way they have been covered by the media, the way they have been, portrayed. And some of that was just the frustration of what's been going on for so many years. And maybe y'all can speak a little bit to that.
I mean, honestly, when you're saying the two side kind of perspective, right? I mean, they tried so hard for 100 years, like let's say at least 1948, to hide that part. Uh, People here in the Western did not have access to people in Palestine. There was no media, so they played their game, and they, put that Israel state as that, democratic, most democratic place in the world, and they have the right to live in it. And they tried so much to hide it, and this is, I think, why they're going crazy right now, because a lot of things are just exposed. A lot of these lies are exposed, and their narrative is really getting really, really weak because of the overwhelming amount of evidence that it's showing. And us, as a third generation of Palestinians, we've seen this growing up. We heard our grandparents talking about it. We know the details. We've watching it on the news over and over, whether we were in Jordan, Palestine, in Syria, and here even. So we know it all. We saw also our parents kind of having to, step back, not to really show with their identity. We kind of learn or adapted that part because, we just need to fit in and move on and create our life. But now we realize, also our generation realize that, and we have the tools and we have the education and we have the resources. So we kind of like, yeah, it's enough. Like, if no change happened now, win with it, because this is really the perfect time. Everything is out there on the media. Their lies cannot stand alone anymore. um and yeah, they tried to hide it for so long, but I don't think they can do it anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely, Damon. I want to get that question in there, and I also want to say, while October 7th was horrendous, I don't know what y'all already covered. You know what I'm saying? You can't. What bothers me is the people that only have empathy for what happened on October 7th, but can't see the innocent lives being lost on the other side, and to to have empathy, to be human, and feel for the lives being lost on the other side as well, does not make you anti-Semitic or does not make you a Hamas supporter. We throw these dog whistles around. You're human. I can feel for there are innocent people being lives lost on both sides, and we're only hearing and supposed to feel for one side, like the other side is not human, and that bothers me as a black man in America because that's what we go through. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like they dehumanize you to a point in the media and everywhere else that no one is supposed to feel our pain anymore. You know what I'm saying? We're only supposed to feel for the other thing. And I want you to give you a chance to speak on that because a lot of people are hearing that are going to watch this have never heard this before. They only see what they see in the media. They only see what the media allows them to see, what the government allows them to see. They don't ever get to hear these stories in our communities.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that that we've heard said, and in the U.S. and out of other countries is that if the world can watch a live stream of 30,000 people being killed, right? If they're literally live streaming genocide. Like the pictures that we see are horrendous, right? Like of like people being run over, children without limbs, like of people, starving people trying to access food and then getting shot in the process. If if we can watch that and still give impunity to the people who are doing it, that means they can do it to any one of us, right? We're all disposable, right? And like we're living in a world with like a climate crisis, an economic crisis, like you know what I mean? And you know and like people are being treated like not like non-human, like as disposable. And if they can do it to the Palestinians, they can do the same to other people, treat them with the same level of disposability, without accountability, and that's that. I feel like that's something that should worry everyone.
Right.
And I just want to add about the anti-Semitic part is that first definition of Semite is not Jewish people. We are, as Palestinian, are people who have languages as Arabic, Moroccan, other things. So anybody who's watching this and it's like, just Google what is the definition of it.
Exactly.
And the idea is that no matter who was doing this against the Palestinian, no matter who, Jews, if it was Christian, if it was Muslim who's doing it, this is our reaction. This is how we will defend it. It's not about who's doing it. It's about what is it that is done and has been done on the Palestinian people. As you said, if somebody is bullying you for more than 70 years, no matter who's that person, no matter what's the religion, where is he from, your reaction will be the same, right? You're not going to ask him, are you Muslim? So I'll forgive you. Or are you Christian? So I'll attack you, for example, So it's a propaganda that have been implemented in the world that kind of, I think that's
right. And I think, for people that are watching, when you talk about, when they say anti-Semitic, like they get it twisted, right? Because if they're doing what they're doing, then what they're doing is anti-Semitic also. So, and the fact that Minister Farrakhan in the Nation of Islam has right now in court, they have sued the ADL for the word anti-Semitic. And that is going through the courts. And no mainstream media is actually talking about that. but it is actually in the courts now. So we will see, what anti-Semitic means, in the court of law, with this lawsuit. And I think he's suing the ADL for $100 million of defamation. Now, we was talking earlier before we started the show. There's a long history, especially with the Black Power movement, in America, in the relationship to the Palestinian struggle. And I think a lot of people don't, right? Younger people don't know, but it's to me, it's shocking that the older people have amnesia, right? And all of a sudden they're forgetting, I was just even SNCC put out a statement, which some of the older people were upset at SNCC for putting out a statement back in the 60s in support of the Palestinians when they were occupying Palestine. So I mean, like, how did we get to this point that we have forgot our connection to the struggle in Palestine?
Media manipulation.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, yeah, and the lack of knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think that kind of reflects a time when there was a lot of more internationalism in the world, right? There were a lot of like struggles for self-determination that were happening, like whether it was like, the Black Power movement in the US, or like, the Puerto Rican movement for independence, or, and then kind of like in the 60s, you had, like Algeria fighting for its independence from France. You had the South Africa fight against white apartheid South Africa. You had, Guinea-Bissau and the Cabral and the movement there. And you had also in Latin America, similar kind of struggles for self-determination that were targeting, which was basically kind of like racist colonial regimes. And I think that there was an understanding among all those movements, including, Black indigenous struggles in the US, that it was a common international struggle against like Western hegemony, against like white colonialism. And that I think that reflected in the way that people organized in the US. I mean, like, I hear a history of like I know Palestinian elders who like have long standing relationships with like the Black Puerto Rican community in New York City. Right. And I, when I was a youth, I got a little bit of that. But we realized that was a history that we really had to work to maintain, like, because it disappeared, because it's not taught in schools. It's also like when the movement becomes more like nonprofit-y, like,
Right.
And less radical, they don't talk about that history anymore. Like,
when they start getting that government money.
Exactly. Right. You get the money and you do things in a particular very liberal way, then you no longer talk about that radical history. But like, the one thing that I'll also say is that in 2003, when I started, really kind of like organizing, I co-organized a delegation to Palestine, which was like a Arab Palestinian Black Puerto Rican delegation. And so we went with like Malcolm X grassroots movement and like several Puerto Rican groups from the city. And the idea was to make a connection between political prisoners in Palestine and political prisoners in the United States. We went with this group also called Prison Moratorium Project out of Brooklyn that doesn't exist anymore. But like we worked hard to try to make those connections, and because it's also it's vice versa too, right? Like it's not, we have to have mutual solidarity, understand, call out Islamophobia, call out anti-Palestinian racism, call out anti-Blackness, and also, understand that, like, solidarity needs to be mutual.
Right.
That's the quickest thing. If you can take, there are more oppressed people in the world than
Right.
so if you can separate them, and you can, this is your issue. That's their issue. I see that even in Westchester. I have a problem with that even in Westchester, where something will happen in Yonkers and the rest of the county be like, oh, that's just Yonkers. That doesn't concern us. And that's, we get into that move. But if you're a student of history, very often unoppressed people become the oppressors. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how they say abused people become abusers sometimes? Like, and when oppressed people become oppressors, they're actually worse than how they were oppressed. And then, it's just like they have finally wrestled away some control, and they are going to hold on to that by any means necessary, even at the risk of oppressing other people. But they don't see that, though. And I'm glad you named all the names of all the movements that you did, because you know what I'm saying. This is an international thing. They try to make it just a Palestinian thing, or it's just a black thing, so other people won't care. But this is an international thing of oppression that has been going on since this world has been here. So
Yeah. I'm sitting here, I'm scrolling through this article because, and it was saying that even like they made Andrew Young, who was Jimmy Carter's UN ambassador. They made him resign. They pressured him to resign when he found out that he was having secret meetings with the PLO to foster peace. But what they did, they labeled it like a secret Black Solidarity Palestine meetings. And I'm reading this article in Vox, and to the point that they, the guy's saying that, they forced Andrew Young to resign from being a UN ambassador for trying to seek some type of peaceful solution. It has always been discouraged, for people to address what's going on in Palestine, and thank God for social media now, and that, people are seeing it, but there's still, it still feels like, it's a disconnect, from everybody. And I'm just so disappointed, at this point. I've heard about it, but just seeing this war, it just amazes me how people are just quiet about it. I think this is going to test our humanity, and where we are. And I hope, the Black and brown community, the Arab community, the Muslim community, the Christian community, and in Westchester will really, really, really start asking the right questions of their politicians. But I want to jump into now, y'all been doing work with Yonkers City Council, I guess the mayor of Yonkers, to get a resolution, of ceasefire. Tell us about that. How has that been going?
I'll start it on the process. Yeah, so technically we did approach the council members on January 30th. That was the first time we introduced the resolution. Our resolution was just adopted from the Newburgh resolution, which was passed. So we're not working with the mayor, right? We should technically be working with the council members. They have the control over these resolution. And also Spanos, probably not our best ally in this specific request. We did propose it. Then February 7th was the official when we send it via mail and all of that. They have been telling us we received it. We actually did not have any direct communication from them to our emails, right? So we emailed, we called, no direct communication from them. We also, did some campaign with the community to call and email, and people have been doing that, petitioning, flyering. But yeah, it's been really hard to communicate with them. It feels like they cut off all the lines of communication, because what's funny also, Yonkers protocol for the community meeting, that happens every 2 weeks. You cannot speak on anything that it's not on the agenda. So how we see in other cities, you go, even if it's not in discussion, you just stand up and you have the right to speak for 3 minutes on some type of issue, like even White Plains. For us, no. You come up, even if you sign up a couple of hours before and you start talking about something that is not on the agenda, they will tell you, I'm sorry, you cannot talk on anything on the agenda, not on the agenda. And the process of getting your item into the agenda is that you have to have at least 4 of them. There's 7 of them, right? 4 of them have to vote yes for that item to be on the agenda. So what we technically been working for is to get our item into the agenda of ceasefire resolution, so we can communicate with them and to give them the chance to hear from the community members. So they have been not replying to our emails. We only were able to successfully meet with Corazon, who opened her office, met with us, listened to us, and she said she will try to, have conversation with other council members. And then the end of last week, we find out that they proposed, with no consultation from us or anything, peace in Gaza resolution that they proposed on their own. Very, very useless, as we would expect. Very, I would say, symmetrical between Israel and Gaza, if it's not even biased. There's a lot of problematic items in there, but in general, does not mention anything about the ceasefire. It's nothing like what we asked for. So yeah, we've been feeling censored, and we're not sure what is the best way to approach them and just have a conversation. Like, okay, the president saying we're not getting anybody to vote on your resolution, so we need to meet with you to try to convince you, right? This is how communication usually start. But there's that wall up there that they're putting between us to communicate, which is, I think, was the most frustrating part, to be honest. Not getting their vote or convincing them, but even try to get to them. Yeah, that's like the summary of the process. Suzanne.
But then they also tried to prevent you from entering one of the city council meetings too, right?
Yeah.
So that's very anti-democratic.
Exactly.
Actually, that's a really important point, Suzanne, that you mentioned. Yeah, like 2 weeks ago in one of the council meetings, we started having vigils, right? After our vigil, usually it's on Tuesday for 1 hour, and then the meeting is at 6:30. So we're like, we're gonna go to the meeting, which we always done before. The police stood up at the front of the building, at the entrance, and they prevented us. And they explicitly said, because we received order that if people who were in the vigil tried to come to the meeting, you would have to wait until our boss, police, I think his name was Weezer, to come and talk to you. So they held us out for 25 minutes. They let other people come in that are not from our group to the meeting while we're waiting. And when the police came, he just said the same thing. We just want to let you know that if you tried to disrupt the meeting, which we never done before. So I don't know why they assumed just because it happens after the vigil. He warned us, if you try to disrupt, we will take our action. So that was definitely another, they escalated that between our relationship with them as our council members, where it was absolutely surprising. So yeah,
I have a problem with that. I'm coming from Mount Vernon, where we speak at city council meetings, whether they want us to or not. You sign up and they might ask you what you're going to speak, but you get your chance to speak. You as a voter, you have the right to bring whatever issue you need to bring to your elected officials who's you voted into office, who your taxpayers pay their salary, your tax dollars pay their salary. Um, I don't know how that's legal to keep you out, the voter, from expressing whatever it is that you need to express. And one way of dealing with that, they all come for re-election, and
Mhm.
and they're going to come to your groups for their votes. You understand what I'm saying? And we don't we're not voting for that unless y'all change that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if you're not going
Right,
to change, we're not
right,
voting for you. And
right, right.
there's peaceful assembly outside of the city council, outside of the building, that everybody who goes to that meeting gotta hear what y'all are talking about. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I I don't. I have to look into that because I don't know how that. I mean, I'm sure it's legal once they pass. Once the county, once the city council passes it, it's legal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
but
it's undemocratic though.
right.
It's we throwing around a whole lot of words. So that's getting you to speak against anything that's against that they don't want you to speak about. They can silence you, and
Yeah,
that's a problem. That's
Exactly.
and I'm not just talking about Yonkers. I'm talking about anywhere this takes place.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, in Russia they kill you for speaking up against stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like just this is a problem. This is slippery slope to that. Like I mean, I'm not trying to exaggerate for at all. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a slippery slope. And have you tried taking it to the county if you couldn't take it to the city? Like talking to your county legislators. I don't know if he's more amenable, or it's not the same thing as your city doing it, but seeing if the county will do it.
Um,
I
what do you think, Hadil? I mean,
I mean, we didn't try yet to do it because it feels like we are in an important fight, right? Like as you said, like these points that we're coming across are revealing a lot about the city itself, and I think we kind of trying to focus our force to confront the process itself because everything is important in this progress. So we didn't consider yet putting it up for the county. We would say definitely the county would be harder. I mean, Yonkers. We started with Yonkers because we thought it's
Right.
has
right,
a
right. That's where you're from. Right.
majority of
Absolutely.
diverse population, like comparing to even White Plains, it's better, right? You would think it is, but not council members wise apparently. Um, but I mean, probably if we found again that it's a locked door, we might consider it, but it's not on the table as of now.
I'm glad you brought this up. And that's the most important thing. You have to do by any means necessary in educating people, whether it's having press conferences, whether it's doing this, because see, we talk to a lot of these council members when they're candidates. You know what I'm saying? When they have issues, they come to us. This is definitely something I'm going to be
Oh,
asking,
we all, yeah, absolutely.
not specifically just for your group, but for any group. You know what I'm saying? That wants to speak on something, their method of silencing that group, like and I say it this way because you know people have a way of, oh, that's just a Palestinian thing. You know what I'm saying? Like say, oh,
right.
that's just a black thing. No, this is, if they can do that to this group, they can do that to any group that
Mhm.
speaks against whatever, you know what I'm saying, whatever it is. And this country was built on protest, and speaking up and pushing back. We learned about all that stuff, with Britain and the Boston Tea Party and all that. This country was built on that. So to now, again, you get here and you get in power, and then you silence that. And Yonkers is the what now, the third or fourth largest city in New York.
Or,
The
right.
third.
Yeah.
That's another
So
reason,
when
yes.
things do what happens in Yonkers, a lot of people pay attention everywhere else because it's the third largest city. You know what I'm saying? So you know, um, I applaud y'all in your fight and your bringing about awareness. I hope that this helps that process of bringing awareness, where people get to hear you. And this will be on blackwestchester.com. So,
Mhm.
sometimes you can't knock on every door to tell every person, but you share a video and the video might be shared by somebody else and someone else may see it, and we have to get to a point of the humanity of it all and all of these situations. Again, and I say that just so they don't make it just a Palestinian thing. Like, oh,
Right.
because of the current situation, it's easy to be like, oh, October 7th, that's the worst thing in the world, and then you don't hear anything else. We need to get to a more human. We need to get more humanity all across the board because all of these situations, and it's funny because the groups that are trying to silence you are the ones crawling for humanity for their situations. You know what I'm saying? If you have to give humanity to get humanity, you have to. You know what I'm saying? What the Bible says: do unto others as you want to have them do to you. Like, I mean, that's a commandment. Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, so we don't live by that. And I applaud I don't know if y'all talked about it, I applaud the one of the oldest black churches, the AME Zion Church, who actually called for a ceasefire. And in their statement, they said they stand with Jesus Christ of Nazareth, a Palestinian Jew. I
Right.
thought that was a powerful statement like that. And a lot of the churches and stuff are not drawing, then a lot of people are worried about, I get it. A lot of people, get funding from governments and
No, but I don't get it.
no, no,
Right.
no, no. I'm not saying. I
Uh,
don't say I understand. I'm not justifying it. I said I know. Okay, let me say it this way. I know what it is. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, get funding. A lot of people, and it's funny what you said. A lot of people get jobs, and
right.
that's another way to shut us down. I
Yeah.
saw I saw an old '70s movie where one of the brothers was looking for the brothers in the struggle, and he was like, "Yo," he saw one of them. He said, "Yo, what happened to all the brothers? They got government
Government
jobs.
jobs. Yeah, they went in and got
Now they
government
can't
jobs.
protest against the government. They got
Yeah.
government jobs."
You
You know,
know, but I think it's incumbent, on Yonkers City Council, Mount Vernon City Council, Greenberg City Council, White Plains, New Rochelle, the major cities, to pass a resolution, of a ceasefire. I think is real important of the Democratic Party to really be honest of whose side that you're on.
Hmm.
So we know, right? So we know not to vote for a Democrat. So we know um not to vote at all if we because it's not about putting Trump in. When you say, yo, I'm not voting for Biden, it's not about putting Trump in. It's about Biden not representing the interests of black and brown people. It's about politicians in Westchester not addressing the issues and the interests of black and brown people. Like we're dismissed. We're going to be dismissed, and we can't have it. I think we talked earlier about people are going to like when they show you who you are, believe them. We have to believe on who these politicians are today. You really have to believe. We really have to start believing, and we really have to start communicating. The like minds must start communicating and start voting some of these fools out because they're showing that they don't care.
Right. I actually, when we came into this campaign, we all said it's a win-win for us. As we're working with them, we're gonna figure out who they are, and as they treat us, and like we see the serious steps that they're taking or the not serious steps that they're taking to serve our request. That's also a win, even if the ceasefire was not ever voted in. That is a win for us because we know exactly who they are.
Hmm.
We tell them like exactly like we are the people. If you're scared for your seat, so you don't want to be clashed with Spano to save your seat or any other political spaces, then fear for your seat, because we are the people who will
Mhm.
give you
Mhm.
access to it. And I think this is why we're actually going through this fight, regardless of what's the result, because we also learned, like, the council member really not that much educated about the issue. I mean, they had the proposal for a whole month, and the president still tell us, I'm sorry, can you educate me? And I'm like, what would you been doing for a whole month once you received the council, the resolution, right? So we learning a lot about them, and we get to connect to each other as a community while we're doing this ceasefire process, and it's a win-win, seriously, regardless of what is
Right.
the result.
And they also kind of want to, people who want things, business to go on as usual, act as if, again, as you said, this is just a Palestinian issue, and they ignore the way that it impacts their own communities. I mean, like, why are billions of dollars of like tax money going to support a genocide when they
Exactly.
just cut $80 million from Yonkers schools? Like, I like,
Right.
and
Exactly.
and that they count on people not asking those questions, right? And then also another way that it impacts is that, like, you know in US Israeli relations, I mean, Israel has served a role in training police departments all over the country in militarized policing, and we're seeing,
And
and
we
that also has
right.
not that
Impact.
the US itself knows how to be a police
Right.
force, but
But
like,
yeah, but it's definitely impacting
right,
the oppression of Black and brown people,
directly,
in communities, in communities of color.
right.
I really believe that the United States, like, they were busy pointing at the relationship with Trump and Russia, but what was really happening is that the United States has been it's a coup, from a foreign government, because when you have a political action committee that's going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars, just to take out Black and brown elected officials, and even some Jewish elected officials, right? That are just speaking on, like, from a humanities perspective, or speaking and saying, hey, listen, all right, instead of sending 14 billion over to Israel, let's just send 2 billion, and let's take the rest and let's fix our infrastructure. Let's invest back in our communities. Let's invest back in our schools. Like, people forget, this is our money. Like,
Mhm.
this is our money. This is our money. They're taking over the the government, the Senate, and the Congress to send our money so they could steal land. It's strict and and then they'll take some people from Boston and some people up here in Orange County, and they'll move over to Israel and move right into somebody's house. And that's what's going on. And we are silent about it. And our politicians are so scared, terrified, that they'd be labeled anti-Israel or anti-Semitic. It really saddens me that they will turn a blind eye on this type of oppression. Now, before we finish, let's
Can I say one thing real quick?
yeah.
Money. So we talked. Damon started to go there. Sometimes you have to redistribute the pain, and the only thing that moves them is the money. We've seen this. I lived in Georgia. Chick-fil-A had made a comment against the gay community, and they was like, "Oh, they took their money, and none of them would buy Chick-fil-A for like a certain period of time." So Chick-fil-A had to apologize and change their procedures, and they looked at some of the Latinos about. I don't know what the issue was, but they wanted to show how important they were. So for one day, they just didn't go to work, and they shut down the city. Like, because they do so many things, they literally shut the city. And whatever they were fighting for, they got. So sometimes what Martin Luther King was saying just before he got got killed, got assassinated, you have to redistribute the pain. And the way that you do that is with your dollar. So you're not going to spend, when you as a group of people, we're not going to spend money for whatever it is, that matters to them. You know what I'm saying? Until you do this, you start getting you start getting their attention when you really start really putting dents in their pocket, because they don't care about humanity sometimes. They don't care about what's right and wrong, but they care about losing money. They care about things being hurt because you're withholding your money to show how important your dollar is and how important you really is. That's the only way they know how important you are, is withholding your money. So I don't know what situations you can do, but I would suggest a consideration of movement in that way. You know what I'm saying? With that gets attention, and that brings out media too, so that it helps spread the message even further. You know, so I hope that you know.
I'm going to say, I just want to show, trying to pull up something real quick. We can't be fooled by, phony ceasefires. I'm sorry if I can't. Phony ceasefire quotes like this. No, this is not it. This is what I wanted to talk about. So when we're talking about using our voice, when they did the protest vote in Minnesota and different states, that forced the White House to call for a ceasefire because they was worried about votes. They wasn't worried about Palestinian lives. When 100,000 people didn't refuse to vote for Joe Biden, that's what they were worried about. But when George Lattimore says this, he questions that as going against Joe Biden and not being part of the Democratic Party. And he also throws in Rashida Tlaib. That's a dog whistle because she has nothing to do with Westchester County. And then he throws in Jamal Bowman.
Who he's running against.
Why do we have to stand behind Biden when he's not standing with us?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have to show the Democrats that it can't be business as usual. And this is a moment to show that. I mean, not just with the Palestinian cause, but like what has the Biden administration done for Black and brown people?
Exactly.
Like nothing. But they use this tactic of like making us scared. Like they use this fear tactic. You don't vote for Biden, then we're gonna get Trump, and just like, well, show us how you've been any better. Honestly.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not saying, I am worried about the rise of the right wing in the US and elsewhere, but like if Trump wins again, the Democrats really are to blame.
Exactly.
To why,
Exactly.
Just like as they were before. So
yeah. Exactly. But they always want to shame people, or use the scare tactic that the Republican is a big boogeyman, right? He's a big boogeyman, but yet George Lattimore gets funding from Republicans. Like this is like, it's a bunch of hypocrisy.
The protest vote was another way, a protest. What mattered to them was the votes. What mattered wasn't the issue. What mattered was the votes. And the group of people was like, they said what they were saying and they were not being heard. And they were like, okay, we're going to have this protest vote, but we're not going to vote for none of that. It's like none of the above or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And just to show how many of us there are. And you know what? That got national news. And as Damon said, now there's calls from the president and the vice president for a ceasefire, a temporary ceasefire. Now even Latimer, who made that statement, is now calling for a ceasefire. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, his call for ceasefire, excuse my French, but we do this on the show sometime, was bullshit, right? His call for a ceasefire was bullshit.
No, that's what I'm saying. The votes mattered, not the issue. That's what I said. It wasn't about the issue being important to them. It was just the votes.
What he said, right? Look at what he said. He agreed with Biden. He didn't agree with the loss of life. Then he mentioned the Israeli hostages, never mentioned any deaths of the innocent Palestinians or the women and children. That was bullshit. That was just to say he was going to, just to say he did something. Let's not be fooled. That meant nothing. Just like, well, Biden's didn't mean nothing either, because if those 100,000 people didn't protest vote, he wouldn't be talking about it today. He wouldn't have it in his state of State of the Union address, right? He wouldn't have talked about it. So let's stop being fooled by these people, because too many people are dying. You know, George didn't even talk about the 100 people that was killed just trying to get food and supplies. Are you kidding me? But this is what they're doing, and they're buying our politicians. I've been, brother, you know, I've been saying it for a long time. Black and brown people, we need to start buying our damn politicians. And if you can't buy them, we got to rent them, because this is what they're doing to us. This is what they're doing to us. And any politicians that's watching, and anybody that's watching, just go to the New York State Board of Election, click on donations, and see the people that call the shots of your politicians. It's not you. They just use you for your vote.
And that's what I said. It all comes down to the money and the vote, not the issue. They don't care about the issue, but if you take away their money or you threaten not to vote, now you got their attention. Now they're like, oh, okay, let me hear what they have to say. And I don't even know if they believe the issue, but they're willing to say whatever to bring that 100,000 people back to make them votes, or
Right.
to whoever's withholding money or whatever, crippling their local economy. They're willing to do something.
Right.
Like look at the history of the Selma bus ride. The bus ride. They didn't give them people the right because it was the right thing to do. Black people stayed off the bus for over a year. Them bus companies
Right.
about to go out of business.
We have to stop voting.
You understand what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
so that's how we have to move.
Stop voting for them. Period. We have to stop going to vote.
We have to stop giving our vote away for nothing.
No. Well, listen. When you don't vote, just like Sister said, oh, you want Trump to win? My community ain't changing. Whoever's president. But I'm not going to give you my vote because you're lying to me.
Yeah.
At least Trump is telling you he ain't shit, right? We know that. We know that for a fact. But you're lying to me for me to give you my vote. And don't let people, oh, they fought for the right for you to vote. No, they fought for the right for me to have a choice. Mm-hmm. Not just to vote. Because
they have the right.
If we go back in the time capsule, they'll tell you, no, don't give your vote for them. Right? We have a choice. And choosing not to vote is a vote.
Right.
I'll be right back.
Sure.
That's the FedEx man. I gotta get this. My daughter killed.
So what else, like I said, we have to stop giving our vote away for free. That's where I'm at. We don't ask for other groups of people. They ask for certain things, or as a group of people, we're not going to vote for you. You know what I'm saying? And again, so that's the way you have to hit them. But protests is very important. This country was run on protests, and it's funny how even during Trump, how they tried to stamp out people during the George Floyd protests. Like, anybody who says anything against the establishment, is labeled, they were labeled all kinds of terrorists and stuff. Mm-hmm. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were labeled as terrorists. Martin Luther King was about peace and nonviolence, and he was a terrorist by this country.
Right.
I know you want to say something, and I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to delay.
Go ahead.
I think you guys mentioned a couple of really important stuff that we're thinking it's really powerful and important in this movement of liberation, not Palestinian liberation, yes, but also the people's liberation, because one of the main point is to connect our struggle, and it is really directly connected. Like, to see how we're struggling because of our tax money going to kill our Palestinian brothers and sisters, it's a one thing, and it's it's the two kind of field or point that we're working on. It's the boycott, because all what our governments and this power care about is the money, it's the finance.
Mhm.
So to boycott the product, to boycott services that they use to benefit the most, is what's going to raise, it's what's going to make them care about what we say, and to, you know, to accept our demands. And the second thing is the voting. With that, I feel like we're as communities, especially minority communities, we're so distracted, we're so tired from working, we're having so much other things in our life that we lost our focus on politics. And it is hectic, it is hectic to work on with all of these agenda and propaganda that's happening in the background, that people don't have patience for it anymore. So people sometimes go vote just because, and sometimes they don't even do it. You know, I'm talking about our little communities here. So it's to work on both contingent of like raising awareness of who to vote for, to why, and how to keep going with them, like how to keep them, like keep track with them after they take up on the seat. So as in this point, education for our communities is very important on these two topics: voting and who and why, but also boycott. And that can be really small steps, like in Yonkers, in Isreal, in these small cities where we can work on these basic contingents to help unify the struggle, to 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 motivate the power to keep that fight, from just like connecting point of what I've heard you guys talk about in the past couple of months about these two issues.
So um, what Damon was saying, we talk about boycott. Actually, not voting is a form of a boycott if you do it as a group of people. Like, say, or the whole Muslim community in Yonkers gets together, or as many of them as possible, and do not participate in the upcoming election. You're going to get some attention, because a lot of these people that are in office probably needed your community to win. And if you decided not to vote or sit out of an election, making it obvious why you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, not just your numbers are going that we're not voting because you're not representing our issues, or you're not whatever it is that you want to convey. Sitting out in the election as a planned boycott, that is a form of a boycott. And as another way of getting attention. And unfortunately, you have to do these things to get the attention, to make them pay attention to you. I speak as a black man in America. Like, no, nothing we've ever got, no civil rights, no voting rights, no nothing was ever given to us because it was the right thing to do. And this country has never done anything like that. We had to, like I said, the summer boycott, the civil rights movement, sometimes the riots. I'm not advocating for rioting, but you know what I'm saying? But things had to be done to, like, we're not going to take this anymore. And we got to be careful, because a lot of times they will do something just to appease you, a group of your people, but not give you what you want. We were fighting for criminal justice reform and all of that after George Floyd. You know what they gave us? They gave us a national holiday called Juneteenth. And black people had parties the day off. Yeah, but they gave white people a day off too. That didn't really give us what we wanted, but a whole bunch of people was happy because Juneteenth is now a holiday. But we didn't get criminal justice reform. We didn't get that John Lewis bill passed, and all those things that we were asking for. We didn't get none of that. But we got a pay day off. So they will always give you something to, and it'll divide, because you got some people that are not going to fight. They're not the frontline people, but they support your cause, and something like that will make them shut up. And they're like, oh, well, we got Juneteenth now, so you got to watch that too. So, um, you know, I know I don't have to tell you this, but I'm just sharing some of our experience and how we are connected. And like you said, quoting Martin Luther King, which they all like to do, an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. And if you're going to stand on that, and you're going to speak up against injustice, then you don't just pick and choose which injustice you speak on, or just the ones that touch you. an injustice, if that phrase means anything to an injustice anywhere, no matter who it involves, is an injustice everywhere. And
Mhm.
you're gonna speak it, make them stand on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm glad that y'all reached out, or however this happened, and Damon told me, because this story needs to be told, and there will be people that support us that will be mad at us for doing this show. There will be people that will be like, "Oh, we're going to be called everything that we was already being called before." But our stories need to be told, and I hope that this is the beginning of the people finally hearing from our local community, which is made up of many people, and we got to hear. We come to these things to be heard, all of us in this world, but we don't come to hear. And that's the problem. We never try to hear. People want you to hear what they have to say, but they don't never want to hear you. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you want us to be considerate of what you're going through, but you never feel our pain. You never want to, we're told to get over it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you still talking about slavery? Oh, that was years. Are you still talking about that? The person got killed by the police. Oh, that was weeks ago. We're always told to get over it, but these other situations we must never forget.
Right.
So,
Never forget.
yeah,
No.
and we got to make sure we're never forgotten. You know what I'm saying?
No, we can't. And if any one of you or anybody that want to write op-eds,
Yes.
you could send them to us, and we'll put them online and put them in the paper and stuff like that. So where you could use us, to get the word out. And if people want to support, is there an email or anything that they could contact y'all guys?
Yeah, Westchester for Palestine at Gmail, and 4 is the number 4.
Okay.
So Westchester number 4 Palestine at gmail.com.
Okay,
and
great.
also we have the Instagram page, which is our main platform on social media, and it's the same username.
Oh,
But
great.
on
I'll
the
follow y'all
Instagram,
guys right now.
yeah, on the Instagram, it's not number 4. It's just FOR. Just,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
guys,
great.
let me just Westchester, the number 4, Palestine. Okay.
Yep, got it right here. Yep.
And I would say the most important thing that we would like to connect with the community through is our weekly vigil. It's happening every Tuesday at 5:30 to 6:30. This is where we can get together, share information, stand up together for, to honor our brothers and sisters in Gaza, but also speak about the updates and what can we do as a community and to build that movement. So Tuesdays, 5:30 to 6:30 in front of the city hall in Yonkers.
Great. Wonderful.
With to see people.
There's also a protest on Sunday morning for something important. There's a real estate company that is setting up events in Harsdale, Brooklyn, New Jersey, and I think elsewhere to basically facilitate the sale of stolen Palestinian land
Really? In New
to
York?
American Jews who want to illegally colonize Palestine. And so one of those real estate events is taking place in Harsdale Sunday morning. There's one in Brooklyn happening on Tuesday, and there's a huge action being planned, but there's also one being planned in Westchester at the Leffel School, which is 555 West Harsdale Avenue.
That's where they're having the event to sell the land?
To sell illegal sale
Nana
of
just sent us an email.
stolen land. I mean, it's illegal under international law, but they can still go and have this. They still have the.
We got to do an article on that. That's crazy, man.
Yeah. Oh well, I can send you some more information about that.
Yeah,
I think there's also efforts to make a complaint with the Attorney General of New York State that they're allowing this to happen because it's a clear violation of international law. But that's 9 a.m. on this Sunday, March 10th.
Wow.
It's homes in these illegal settlements that's in the West Bank. So there's some news out there that no, it's in actual Israel. No, it's in the West Bank. And another comment about the location, just to be clear, LaFell High School is hosting this event. So we're
Yes.
protesting on that just because it's the venue. It's not because of the high school, because they're hosting that event. And it's important to say that they've been in the previous events happening in New York and New Jersey. They have been only allowing Jews who are affiliated with a specific synagogue, like any synagogue, but this has to be known. So it is illegal on both contingent. It's illegal because it's illegal settlement that they're trying to sell homes in. And it's only advertised for specific race or ethnicity or religion. So Sunday at 9 to 12, we're trying to stand there.
What's the name of the organization that's do the real estate or whatever, the broker that's doing it?
It's mainly Keller Williams. And I mean, honestly, there's so many logos on their advertise. We did post.
You posted it on your Instagram page?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did. I actually, yeah. So we posted with all of the organization that they're like kind of adapting it, but one of the main one is Keller Williams. And you know, LaFell High School have a kind of recent history with Yonkers. They were the reason why a Coach Williams from Roosevelt High School was kicked. Does anybody recall that?
Yeah, no, I worked with him in corrections. He's a great guy.
Right. So they were the reason who made all of these claims about Roosevelt High School team, LaFell High School. So I mean, just as an institute, they have been like, just have bad presence or negative presence in Westchester in general, and now they're hosting this event.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Well, we got a lot of fighting to do, but I'm glad your guys are in the front and doing and educating people, and like I said, whatever we can do to help, articles, email blasts, whatever we could do to help, we're here. We're definitely here for your guys.
Sounds great.
I think we appreciate that.
AJ?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No, I was actually looking up the information because Nada sent us something, and I'm trying to figure out what she sent us, and it was green, and it did that school started with an L. It's the same school. I can't. Yeah. I'm looking for the information because she emailed it to us, and now I can't find it.
And I actually did a educational post about it, so I can send it after to Damon. That has some details about like the specific settlements that they're selling and stuff like that.
And we can ask George about it in the debate. Does he agree with that? Since he wants to talk all that stuff, we can ask him. I'm serious. He's laughing, but
So, for any of our viewers that are hearing these issues, hearing some stuff for the first time, they may never have heard any last words or how they can get involved to help you in your struggle.
We really need all hands on deck, and we need people who's ready to show and work on showing and learning how our struggle is won. Seriously, like this is our most true situation that we live in and our most powerful tool at this point. Westchester for Palestine, we welcome everybody to work on issues for Palestine in the region of Westchester. We do teach-ins, protests, different contingent. So that's really the path that we're going currently. And the idea is to unify struggle and to fight for all of our liberation, especially in our small communities.
Anybody who fights for civil rights or human rights, we have to understand this is an international thing. We have to understand there are oppressed people all over this country, especially people of color all over this country, and we're more powerful together, and they know that. So they do everything they can to divide us. They do everything to dehumanize us in the media. So when bad things happen to us, we weren't human. We're not supposed to be looked at as human, so you're not supposed to feel for it. But that's BS, though, and we have to fight against that. And everybody, if you have any humanity, you have to feel empathy for the innocent lives being killed on both sides of this issue. It is not, just what happened on October 7th was a bad thing, but what has happened since then is even worse in a lot of ways. You understand what I'm saying? So, there's people, and I'm not trying to hear that Hamas hides under schools and in those areas. You know what? When you're a big military like that, you're supposed to have like that intelligence, and you're supposed to be able to infiltrate things, and you got special. You go in there hand to hand combat. You don't blow up the whole area and kill everybody and throw away the baby with the bathwater. You go get the individuals who are guilty. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, but that's not the goal.
Yeah, but
That's not the goal.
yeah, but the one thing I'd say maybe to end is that a lot, like I think as Hadil said, like people really need to do their due diligence to educate themselves, right? It's the same like if we are being fed propaganda, like if we're fed propaganda, like you mentioned something earlier about how the riots, if we call them riots, I mean they were rebellions,
right.
Achieved something, right? But like we have to resist people defining that as criminal behavior and like really kind of educate ourselves and argue that was that those were necessary rebellions that helped the community gain what they needed to gain, right? And it's the same with like educating ourselves around Malcolm X's like quote about how the media will have you believing that the victims are the criminals, right? Now there's been so much propaganda about Hamas and about the Palestinians that have come out, and US media has been putting out more propaganda than the Israeli media itself, honestly.
Wow.
Like stories about mass rapes, which have been debunked over and over again, stories about beheading babies, which was debunked over and over again, which like US White House officials were saying. And it's the same with like, hiding in schools and hiding, in hospitals and so on. So like, we have to sort of be really discerning about, and also understand that like, even though there's this whole way that like politicians are being brought, and also not just being brought, but like you dare go against Israel, you can easily lose your seat in the United States, right? We know that. But the fact is that like the US government, whether or not there was a pro-Zionist lobby here, would still be supporting Israel because they're protecting, the larger US government is protecting their own interests in the region, oil, trade routes, like, military bases and stuff. So, we need to educate ourselves around that. And then I think, like, as Hadil said, this is an opportunity. Like, it's been like a real pleasure talking to the two of you, honestly. It's not like our typical experience in Westchester, like, to have these conversations. Like, this is maybe a good opportunity for like our communities to do more collaborative projects with each other going forward in West. We create a real movement in Westchester, like.
I would definitely stand with y'all if you want to do any kind of town halls in the community, in the community or something. As long as I know ahead of time, I would definitely be there with y'all and have the same conversation, to our audiences and to our community. So, whatever we can do, you have Damon's contact information. Please keep us in the loop. Again, I'll have this on Black Westchester within the half an hour, and we'll blast it out to our all our listeners and stuff, and hopefully start a conversation. I just want to say, as with everything else, this is the beginning of a conversation. This is not the conversation.
Right.
This is the beginning. If you've seen something that moved you or you learned something, you need to go back to your circles and continue this conversation. If you've seen something that moved, you need to share this video. If you watch it on YouTube, subscribe and like and all those kind of things. Share the video with other people. And actually, since we started the conversation, you can get groups of people in your community and you can show this video on the projector and then have a Q&A and a panel discussion about it afterwards. Pro, for, whatever. This is the beginning of a conversation. Utilize it as that. And let's not let this be the last time. All of us have a communicating about this situation as well, too. So whatever we can do to help get the word out, and we're here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
all.
Thank you. And y'all got you got my contact, so send me whatever, and if you anybody wants to write an op-ed, please send it, and we'll put it on the site.
We need to continue to have these honest conversations, these courageous conversations, and more importantly, we need more to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
We need to have these uncomfortable conversations.
And confront people who will feel
confront people.
uncomfortable because of these conversations.
Right.
Exactly.
Why are they
Exactly.
uncomfortable? You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
We need to make some people more uncomfortable.
Right.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
So if you're just tuning in, if you just came in, you could go to YouTube. You'll see the interview again. We're gonna run. Instagram only allows an hour of live content, so we're gonna run an hour of the show later on tonight on Instagram for everybody to watch on Instagram. So if you don't want to go to YouTube, or you just whatever
go to
you want,
blackwestchester.com and
yeah, you can go to Black Westchester.
Because I'll have your links to your email and your I have that all under the video.
Right. But for all y'all people that just use Instagram, we'll be back later on. We're gonna replay it. An hour of the show. We're gonna replay it tonight for you guys that just
We'll break it up into 2 parts. Yeah, so you can watch all of it. Yeah.
All right. So thanks everybody, and I hope everybody have a blessed day and enjoy your weekend.
This is a special edition of the Black Westchester Power Hour.
Free Palestine, yeah.
Yep, free Palestine. That's it. And don't vote for nobody who supports oppression over in Palestine.
And we continue to bring you that real talk for the community since 2014. Bye.
Absolutely.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. Today, look around America. We see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. And are not afraid